and then the light should come on that it's recording. These were your vocabulary words that came right from the SAC pack. Your test is going to be on those vocabulary words, and this time it's in the same format as the state test, the written test. So I think you'll get a little practice on how that is. It's multiple choice and not matching.
Oh, okay.
Aren't the other ones matching?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, in your SAC pack this week, here's the sign-in sheet if you'll sign in. In your SAC pack, you had states with their nicknames. Did you all do that one?
Oh, no.
Did you see it?
Yes.
I thought some of them I knew, but
I know the first one.
the Bluegrass State.
Kentucky.
Yes, Kentucky. Kentucky plays tonight. University of Kentucky plays Louisville. My husband graduated from UK.
Nice.
Yes, it's tonight, isn't it? The second one is the movie state, and I got 2 answers for that one when I Googled it.
California.
California is one, but there's another state that's taking over.
Tennessee.
And I was a little surprised
Indiana.
because North Carolina is making lots of movies in
Georgia.
Wilmington, North
Is it
Carolina,
Georgia?
but it wasn't North Carolina. It was Louisiana.
Huh.
And it's taking over
That's
as the
only the one
movie
also.
state. The Garden State.
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay. The Hawkeye State. Iowa. Then there's a Buckeye State. That one's not on there. Anybody know that one? Ohio. The Razorback State. Arkansas. I know this morning when we were talking, my husband and I were talking about the game tonight with Kentucky, and I said, what are the initials for Louisville? And he said, University of UL. And then he said, why wouldn't you know that? And I said, why would I know that?
Yeah.
But I didn't know that it was UL. But it is Louisville, not Louisville, Louisville. The volunteer state is Tennessee. Okay. Heart of Dixie,
Alabama.
Alabama. The Hoosier State,
Indiana.
Indiana. Sunshine State, I
Florida.
knew that one. What's that one?
California.
No.
Florida.
Florida.
Oh, there you go.
The Land of Lakes,
Minnesota.
Minnesota. Mount Rushmore State,
South Dakota.
South Dakota. And the Peach State,
Georgia.
Georgia. So that was the answers for that one. Then, there was also the professions and traders. I had to look some of those up.
Yeah.
Let me find the line for because I don't have the answers online. If you ever miss picking up the SAC pack, I always scan it and put it on the wiki under the SAC pack for the semester. Oh, I guess I don't have a bunch of that one. Oh, here it is. One who mends shoes.
Cobbler.
Yes, a cobbler. One who builds ships.
Shipwright.
It is the shipwright. One who draws maps.
Cartographer.
It is the cartographer. Yes. One who loads and unloads ships.
Stevedore. How do you say that?
I think it's stevedore.
Stevedore.
I think so. One who collects postage stamps.
Philatelist.
Yes. One who is in charge of a museum.
Curator.
One who preserves the skin of animals.
Taxidermist.
Yes, taxidermist. One who lends money at an exorbitant rate.
Pawnbroker. User.
Usurer. Okay. And one who lends the money and keeps the goods as security. I think that's the one
Pawnbroker.
that just gives that one away, which is the pawnbroker. Those were really good ones that she had on there.
Would this be on the test, on the state test? Or is it just? for
Some of those could be. They really could be, because that test is matching. Not matching, it is kind of matching. You have 4 choices, multiple choice. So you would pick, which one would be the best answer. Yeah. Now, if you didn't have that last one and the next to the last one together, that one might be hard to answer, 8 and 9, because those were so close, the pawnbroker and the usurer. It made it a little easier because we had all of those together. Now, the next item that she had in there was the homophones. Is there anything wrong with number 1? I didn't find anything wrong with that one. So I didn't make a change on that one. Anybody make a change on number 1?
No.
Number 2, the shipping company did not want to have to pay the bill for the tear weight of the cartons loaded onto the ship. Did anybody change laden to loaded? That is, bless you, that is the proper word there. But it's T-A-R-E. The surly youth confronted the officer with a bizarre explanation of the incidents. S-U-R-L-Y. Number 4, the word allowed. Number 5, which was the spinal cord. 6, pedal. 7, principled. And I made a little note. I Googled the principal and principal, P-L-E and P-A-L. You might want to write those down if you don't have that rule already. P-L-E is always a noun. And then the P-A-L can be a noun or an adjective. I think that one's hard, and I think the ITS, I see a lot of my students get that one wrong. If it's the contraction and you've left something out, then it has the apostrophe in it. Number 8, timber. Number 9, the word troop. T-R-O-U-P-E, and insight, I-N-S-I-G-H-T. And then number 10 was undo. Any questions on those? Those of you that are just coming up into leaving the theory class, there are SAC packs from other semesters available on the wiki if you want to look those up and print them off. This is the first time I've taught in this room, and this doesn't line up just right. We have to move the camera.
Now,
Yes.
before you start that, on number 4 for the last thing on the homophobe.
Yeah.
Homophobe.
Number 4.
Yeah, the last part. A mast, is that right?
During the travel cause of the matter in which it was I don't know, I didn't change that
I
one.
think that should be the verb amassed.
Yeah, that's what.
Oh, maybe so. A-M-A-S-T? Okay, I missed that one. All right, but with that score, it's been a while since I've taught grammar.
Yeah.
I have numbers on the brain. I usually teach the accounting classes, but anyway, thank you. That was just a test to see if y'all would catch it.
You passed.
Yes.
We didn't.
All right. Let's look at the jury charge first. When I'm grading the test, I think the hardest part for me to grade is the punctuation, because you're the person that's hearing it, and the person that took this down, because some of these are actual proceedings, so they're things that someone has written on their steno machine from an actual case. So what they have heard might not be the same way that we've read that. When we're reading, and let's say we're reading at 160, we don't have time to actually put that long pause in there where someone's going, yes. So we have to sort of exaggerate that pause so that you'll put that dash in there if that's what it's calling for. So when I grade the test, I think that's the hardest part for me to grade. When you're doing your own transcript, who's going to look at your punctuation?
You?
Well, I mean a real transcript. You're going to be the person that edits that. So we here at SAC, we only take off a half point if it is a punctuation mistake, because it could have been the way that you heard it. The paragraph beginnings, I don't always take off for that, unless it is a drastic change in what the person is talking about, and I know that that should have been a new paragraph. So that's really the hardest part for me as an instructor to grade your PCs. But ladies and gentlemen of the jury, did anybody punctuate that a little differently rather than just a comma there?
To review it, or
Huh?
are we gonna get a test?
Oh, wonder where they are. In Miss Reed's office, maybe?
Yeah, they might be there.
Let's see.
I wonder where's Carrie? She's usually.
She wasn't gonna be here. She's taking a day off with her mom.
Oh, that's sweet.
Okay, Yvonne, I think this is your simple now. Is that week? Is that right? Look at the, we are at the, okay. And then Christina, there's Christina's. Yes. Okay, what's Charles' name?
We don't get them in here.
Oh, you don't?
Mm-mm.
He does ours.
We go through them with Mr. Hopkins in class.
Oh, mine aren't in the
You didn't take yours. Okay.
cousins.
Well, you can just look at mine. And you don't get one either?
No, I'm in.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I have it on my computer.
Did you all take the same test? You want to
Yes.
bring it up on, you have it on your computer?
I don't have my computer. No.
Well, maybe it will help just to look at it. Right, but ladies and gentlemen of the jury, did anybody punctuate that any differently than just the comma there and then continued?
Yeah, mine doesn't look like that.
Yvonne, is yours the correct one?
Mine doesn't. Mine looks like that. I
Did you
really
take
like
that
this.
one, Christina?
Yeah, it was, this one. This
Who
past-
grades your test?
I have no idea. It was this past Wednesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I turned out one in.
Oh, here's another one.
Oh.
We are at the stage, yes, okay. I guess just give me that other one back. This is it. And then make sure you give them back to me because they haven't been recorded yet.
Mr. Hopkins does have us punctuate that differently with a colon.
I know. And then a capital letter for we.
Yes.
Are you all punctuating it that way? On the back row?
No.
The
Ms.
peanut
Willard says it's
gallery?
archaic.
He says it's archaic to do
Ms.
the
Willard says it is.
Oh, to do the colon? But as long as you're consistent and you're the one that's editing it, and your court may say, or your judge may say, I always want it punctuated this way. I don't know how detailed they are with how they want the transcript to look. But as long as you're consistent. And if you use the colon there, then we'd have a capital W. Okay. We are at the stage where, comma, under the law, comma, I have read the instructions to you. If you will, now if we were reading it that way, if you will, please follow along with me on the first page. These are the instructions that you are to follow in your deliberations in this particular matter. Punctuated any differently back there? What if I said, if you will, please follow along? Is that how you
With
do it?
no comma.
Where would you put the comma?
Before and after, please.
After the, I think I would just put it after the please. If you will, please. If I said it that way. And again, you're the person that's hearing it. Okay, members of the jury. And we're addressing the jury there. Comma. In any jury trial, there are in effect two judges. I think some of those commas are questionable. I think we can over comma a document. In any jury trial, there are in effect. I would separate the in effect, but I don't know that I would have put a comma after trial. Two judges. I am one of the judges. I put a little mark there because I think that should have been a semicolon, okay? And not a capital T. The other is the jury. It is my duty to preside over the trial and to decide what evidence is proper for you to consider. It is also my duty, and if I'm saying it that way, it is also my duty at the conclusion of the trial. I probably would have separated that at the conclusion of the trial, but if the person, and it's the judge that's probably reading it, it is my duty to preside over the trial, maybe there was no cause, and to decide what evidence is proper for you to consider. Again, you're the person that's hearing it, so you're punctuating it. It is also my duty at the conclusion of the trial to explain to you, I probably would have separated that, to explain to you the rules of the law that you must follow and apply in arriving at your verdict. Questionable punctuation there?
I have it the same way.
I would have separated it. I would have separated at the conclusion of the trial. Is that where you separated it? Set that off? Where'd you
Mr.
put
Hopkins kind of said it in a whole long string.
Oh, he did? Okay, so there was no break. And it's really hard at that lower speed for us to put that pause in there.
Yeah.
It is. It really is. Right, first, and there was probably a long pause there, I will give you some general instructions which apply in every case. Could have been a period there. Here, there's a colon. Somebody's put the colon in. I don't know whether that was Miss Woodard. Again, it's questionable how you would punctuate it. For example, I probably would have put the colon there after, for example. Instructions about burden of proof and how to judge the credibility of witnesses. Then, I will give you some rules of law. If there's a pause after the then, would you have set it off?
I did.
Okay? And again, that was at a much slower speed. If we were reading that at a higher speed, then I will give you some rules of law which apply. You might not have heard a pause there for a comma. And both of them are right. I mean, it's not going to be wrong. I wouldn't mark it wrong. I might have said on the person's test that I was grading, I probably would have put a comma there. Can we start a sentence with and?
Yes.
We do now. We used to never start a sentence with and. Did anybody punctuate that differently and continue the sentence with the and?
I had a question on the previous paragraph, the for example area.
Line 15?
Yeah, line 15.
Okay.
I put a dash before for example.
First, I will give you, and you have first, comma, I will give you some general instructions which apply in every case. For example, I think a dash would be fine there. There might have been a longer pause as he was reading that.
Okay. Thank you.
And some of the punctuation can come from the physical appearance of the person that's speaking to. First, or for example, and then they sort of go like this to talk about something, so you might have put the dash in there. You heard that elongated pause. But the next sentence started with an and. You could have just continued that and not made it a separate sentence. And after that, comma, can you see that? Oh, did it get blurry? Okay. After that, I will explain to you the procedures, or procedure, I can't see from over here, the procedures that you should follow in your deliberations. Again, a new paragraph. We've just changed sort of the topic that we're discussing here. We're going back to addressing the jurors, telling them what they are supposed to be doing. You as jurors, as jurors, are the judges of the facts. Period or comma?
I put a period.
Anybody put a comma? Put a period? But keep in mind that in determining what really happened, and see, it looks like there's a colon, a comma. I'm not sure what that is. How did you punctuate it? What did you put there?
There I put a dash because it's a long break.
And a dash would be good. When in doubt, put the dash, because I'm sure there was a pause. That is, comma, in reaching your decision as to the facts,
Another
comma,
dash.
another comma there, or did you put a
I
dash?
put a dash. because
Okay.
it's like
You set that off with dashes. It is your sworn duty to follow all the rules of law as I explained them to you. Could have been a new paragraph there. You have no right to disregard or give special attention to any one instruction or question, the wisdom or correctness of any rule I may give you. You must not substitute anything, nor follow your own notion or opinion as to what the law is or ought to be. You must not substitute anything. Anybody put a comma there? Before the nor? No, just continue. It is your duty to apply the law as I explain it to you. Regardless of the consequences. Right, then we have a break there for a new paragraph. Did you all break there? Okay. It is also your duty to base your verdict solely on the evidence. Here we have a dash and a comma, so it's either or. How did you do a dash or a comma?
I put in a comma because it didn't seem as strong of a.
Okay. Christina, what do you have there? A comma or just a dash?
I put a comma.
You did? Okay. Free from prejudice or sympathy. That was what you swore to do in the oath that you took, before being accepted by the parties as jurors, and they have the right to expect nothing less. Do we have a comma there? Everybody put a comma there? I wish you all had a test that you could look at. But maybe you'll get one little bit of information that will help on the next test. The indictment or formal charge against the defendant is not evidence of guilt. In fact, there's probably a pause there, the defendant is presumed by the law to be innocent. The law does not require a defendant to prove he is not guilty, nor to produce any evidence in the case at all. The state has the burden of proving the defendant is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, and if it fails to do so, you must find him not guilty. Separated with commas there. And if it fails to do so, or a dash. How long of a pause did you hear? Did you use commas?
My test didn't get up that far.
Oh, it didn't, okay.
But when we were practicing, I only heard a comma, because we practiced
did?
at the end of the test.
Oh, you did? Okay. While the state and I just highlighted this, sometimes we see the state with a capital S. Did you all capitalize state?
I would
Yeah.
have.
I would have too. And then the apostrophe S. Burden of proof is a strict or a heavy burden. I might have put a period there instead of just a comma, or even a semicolon, because it's continuing on the same topic, but it's two independent clauses there.
I thought it was dependent because of the while.
Oh, it might be with the while as the introduction. You're right, so probably a comma. If we didn't have the while, it would change it. Very good point. It is not necessary that a defendant's, apostrophe S, guilt be proved beyond all possible doubt. It is only required that the states, again I would have capitalized that, proof, exclude all reasonable doubt as to the defendant's guilt. A reasonable doubt is a doubt that is based on reason and common sense, and one that remains after a full and impartial review of all of the evidence in the case. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt, therefore, is proof of such a convincing sort. Oh, and I think she changed that to, I don't know whether she changed that word or not. I think she said character at 200 speed. Anybody in here taking the 200? Okay. Let's see. Priscilla, that's probably for you if you're watching this video. That you would be willing to rely and act upon it in the most important of your own affairs. I have that we stopped here for the 120. As I told you before, comma, it is your duty, and new paragraph there, to determine the facts. In doing so, you must consider only the evidence presented in the trial, which means the sworn testimony of the witnesses and the exhibits that were marked. Keep in mind that statements made by the lawyers are not evidence. New paragraph. The function of the lawyers, we changed our topic there, is to point out those things that are most important or most helpful to their side of the case. And in doing so, call to your mind certain facts or inferences that might otherwise escape your notice. But in the end, could that have been punctuated a little differently?
Comma after but.
Or even a dash there in the end, because the person probably said but in the end, separated it there. Again, at a lower speed, you might not have heard that longer pause, but I think we need something right here. In the end, it is your own recollection and interpretation of the evidence that controls in the case. What the lawyers say is not binding on you. New paragraph. During the course of the trial, comma, I sustained objections that were made to some questions and exhibits. You must disregard each of those questions and exhibits entirely. Do not speculate as to what the witness may have said if he had been allowed to respond to the question. There's a comma there before the nor as to what may have been contained in some of those exhibits. I think in the other situation where we have the nor, I think we really need to have a comma there. You may not engage in such speculation. It is also the case that certain testimony or other evidence was ordered by me to be stricken from the record during the course of the trial. Anybody would have put punctuation in there? That last sentence? It's a pretty long one. But I don't think it means anything. You have been told that you must disregard all of this evidence. You may not consider it in any way in reaching your verdict. Your verdict must be based solely on evidence that is admissible. New paragraph, we're getting to the end of the 160. I want to caution you that you should not assume from anything I may have said or done during the trial that I have any opinion concerning any of the issues in this matter. Christina, did you have any punctuation in that sentence?
And I only went up to 140.
Oh, you did?
Yes, the
Okay.
last sentence was not to speculate as to what.
Anybody have a disagreement with how that one's punctuated, even though you didn't take that part? Except for the instructions to you on the law, comma, you should disregard anything I may have said during the trial in arriving at your own findings as to the facts. Did you all practice this part in the lower speed?
I think he went through the whole test with us.
He did, okay. While you should look only to that evidence which is entered before you in reaching your verdict in this case, comma, you may draw any conclusions from the evidence as reason and common sense tell you are justified in light of your own past experience. Did we need a comma there?
I think we could put in there.
I think we could have. I paused when I read it. Keep in mind, as you decide the facts in this case, that you should not be concerned as to whether the evidence that you have before you is direct or it is circumstantial. Keep in mind, as you decide the facts in this case,
I think you could probably set aside as you decide.
I think you could have set that off, okay? Direct evidence is testimony of one who has first-hand knowledge of a fact, such as a person who saw something or heard something that he can swear to under oath. On the other hand, comma, circumstantial evidence is proof of facts and a chain of events which may lead you to conclude that the defendant is either guilty or not guilty. You must keep in mind the law gives you the same weight to circumstantial and direct evidence. I think the punctuation is always very subjective.
Are we going over the lit now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm gonna step out. I'm doing it right now.
Oh, you're taking the lid?
Yeah.
Let's remember to ask her to come back in when we get to the Q&A. Okay. Unless you have been living on a deserted island or had no contact with other people for the past 2 years, you already know that we are in a deep recession today in our country and around the world. 1 comma before the U. Anything differently? Don't overuse the comma. Right, the next paragraph. Many of us have already felt the effects of the hard times we are living in, period. Many of us have had to cut back our expenses, and even at that, comma, many of us are losing our jobs, comma, our houses, comma, and perhaps even our life savings. New paragraph. There are many things that have brought about what we are facing today, period. To make us even more upset, comma, some of these are things that we have had nothing to do with, period. All the waste and huge spending patterns of those people in high places, comma, together with the economy as a whole. I think there should be a comma there.
Yeah, I could put it there or get rid of both.
Right, I think there should be one right here. That's how I would have read it if I were dictating that to you, has put us here, period. There is no way to tell how long that is going to last. New paragraph. Are your paragraphs in different places than what we have here? Where'd you stop your paragraph, Christina?
I have paragraph, the next one, the hardest thing.
Did you include this sentence with this?
Which,
The hardest thing?
no, that's like where I started the new paragraph.
Right here, but you combine those two. Try not to make your paragraphs too
Like,
long.
the other one, like, to make us even more upset, that's a new paragraph for me, and then the hardest thing, that's a new paragraph.
Okay,
It's just that I think my it's messed up, because like, it doesn't indent them anymore, my paragraphs, it doesn't indent them on the side, at the beginning.
it's not indenting your paragraph.
No, like, it makes it,
It gives you a blank line.
yeah,
Are you taking David's class?
no. It used to though, like, I had no
But it
problem
might be
with it.
something in your setup.
Yeah.
Was going to say if
I'll
you're
go
in
ahead and,
his
like,
class,
look over
maybe
my
you could
notes,
ask
yeah.
him how to change that. Does anybody know how to change that? To put the
Indentation?
indent back in? I don't know either.
Mr. Zarate still hasn't even gotten there.
Oh, he hasn't?
Not for the beginner course.
Okay. Well, when you do, maybe you can share that with Christina. He is the resident expert on the eclipse. And you also could type it into the help, Christina, and see if there's a visualizer that would help you do
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
Type it into the help. There's so many visualizers in that program.
Yeah.
If you have those that were downloaded when you put it on in the,
Yeah, I
the
think
first
there are,
place.
because I've seen them before, like the little tutorials.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just Google or do it that in the help. Do a search in the help. All right, the next paragraph. The hardest thing about losing your job is that finding a new one has become very difficult. As you go out to look for another job, comma, you find that you are competing with all kinds of people, period. You find people with many degrees competing for simple, comma, entry level, hyphenated, those because it's a double adjective for the jobs with high school students. This can be very hard on a family unit to face this kind of situation. But that, with the rise in basic services, comma, we are all looking for every place we can to save money in order to buy the basic things that we need for life. Senior adults, or those people who must live on a fixed income, are finding it even harder. Any punctuation there? Did you
Yeah,
put a comma in there?
I put that one.
Where did you put your comma?
Right after adults and after income.
Senior adults. Oh, you separated the or those people who must live on a fixed income. And I think that's okay. I wouldn't have marked off on that if I were grading your test. Did you get your test back from Mr. Hopkins?
No, we took it just yesterday, so we'll probably receive it back on Monday.
Okay, so see what he says, if he thought that he read the comma in there.
Okay.
Okay. He might change some of that as he's reading it. Many of them are asking the serious question about whether I should take my medicine or should I buy food to eat, period. It can be very hard out there. We started a new paragraph for those people who want to make a fresh start, comma, perhaps looking for a job in a different field, comma, is not so bad. Do I'll put a comma there?
No,
With-
separating subject and verb.
With so many experienced people looking for work, if you are looking to change fields, comma, the burden is on you to spell out why you would be the right person, or the right, she did change it to person for the job. You cannot expect the employer to take the time to figure that one out. That becomes your job. Anything different here than a period? Could you have put a semicolon there? Semicolon would have worked. New paragraph. One person who hires gives an example of this, period. She finds that she gets a lot of resumes from people whose background values vary, whose background varies greatly. Recently, comma, she had one person looking for a job at her nursing home business who was just coming out of the military. He emphasized the fact that he was an expert sniper. This was certainly not going to help him get the job with this woman. TMI, right? Make sure that your resume does not contain some of the catchphrases that people often use. Did you get catchphrases if your test went that far? And are you putting the accent on the E for resume? You have resume in your dictionary with the accent on there?
I would do that, because otherwise it would be resume.
Yeah, because it should have the accent mark on the resume. If you don't have that defined, you probably need to do that. Do you have it defined in your dictionary?
I don't have it yet. I
Okay.
haven't typed that word out.
Okay. Did you all practice that one at the lower speed?
No.
You didn't go that far on the test? Oh, you did.
That was, yeah, I know that word was.
Or
on
was that
my-
part of the test?
that part
Resume was a few sentences or paragraphs before too. It was in there more than once. Yeah. One of the gentlemen that I went to school with 100 years ago, when I was at Virginia Tech, he used to call it a resume. I don't think anybody ever had the heart to correct him. Okay, catchphrases, if you went that far, we have it as one word there. What does it really mean when you say you have excellent communication skills, question mark? The question is really whether you have the job skills to do the particular job for which you are applying. So what can you do, question mark? One of the first things is to know as much as you possibly can about the company for which you want to work. Did you have any punctuation, or would you have put any punctuation in that sentence? The more you know about the business, comma, the more you can make your cover letter and resume, as my friend used to say, address what that company is looking for. Also, be sure, now, you could have heard that a couple of different ways if this was part of your test. Also, be sure, and if we're pointing that out, also be sure, where would we have put the comma?
After the sure, you say it that way.
As I paused, also, on the first one, be sure to, and then I continued with the rest of the sentence. Also, be sure that you take the time to present a different resume to each company. Could have been punctuation a couple of different ways. There's no punctuation in this one, but I think we need something there. A resume that will work for every company, no matter what the field, will simply not work, and we've separated no matter what the field. Next paragraph, it is important that you tie your previous experience to the new job you want to land, even if you were the sniper talked about above, comma, you could present yourself to a new employer as a person who is expected to do very sensitive and confidential things. This also could point out that you can be trusted on the job. New paragraph. All right. Here we have catchphrases as one word. And look at this next paragraph.
Wouldn't it have to be consistent?
Yes. So I would just be consistent. If you put it as one word, in one place it needs to be one word in the second place. So this one, we could either, and I didn't Google that word to see if it is one word or two words. It's probably acceptable both
I
ways.
put it as 2, but I did the
It
50
just
test and
doesn't
it starts
have
right
the
there.
plural on this one. But I think we need to be consistent as we're writing. Did your test go that far?
That's where my test started.
Oh, it
I
did
just-
right there? What's it say? One
I
word,
just
two?
looked it up on the Merriam-Webster dictionary, and it puts it as one word.
It does.
I put it
So-
as 2.
And I don't know. We'll have to see how Mr. Hopkins grades it. Can you look things up when you're transcribing your test? You can?
Yes.
So if you did look it up, it would have indicated that it was one word. Does it say that it's ever acceptable for two? You know, sometimes it says that you can use it as two.
It didn't have that in parentheticals.
It didn't? Okay. So we'll see, maybe that's a mistake. And again, sometimes it depends on who's grading it. If your
I bet he
test
leaves it
started
alone.
here, and he's grading from the written part of the test, which is this.
It
and
says
the
right
first-
there it's 2 words.
I know, but he might have changed it. Another catchphrase not to use is that you are a team player. And I marked this because the period and the comma should always be inside the quotation marks. It's the question mark that can be either in or out. But the period and the comma should always be inside the quotation. Everybody says that. Instead, tell exactly why you think your experience will help you to work well with this particular company or group. Could you have put everybody says that with a dash there to set that off and continue that as a longer sentence?
I didn't. I put period.
I don't know. It depends on how that person read it that was reading the test. Another catchphrase not to use is that you are a team player. Everybody says that. And then continue with the sentence. I don't know. Or everybody says that, exclamation mark.
Aren't we not supposed to use
Punctuated differently?
exclamation marks?
Some of this, one of these had an exclamation mark in it.
I think
Right,
it's supposed to
it's-
steer clear from that.
I know.
Yeah. I don't even know how to write an exclamation mark.
Instead, tell exactly what you think your experience, or why you think your experience will help you to work well with this particular company or group, period. Also, don't forget to include any type of volunteer work you have done. Helping your daughter sell Girl Scout cookies may be more valuable experience than you think. New paragraph. Make sure to look deeply into your work experience you have had so far and connect it to what you want to be doing if this company does hire you, period. You may have forgotten about some of the things you have done in the past that would really impress a new employer. new paragraph, read over and check that resume and cover letter carefully. Be sure that there are no spelling errors on it. Do you know the most frequently misspelled word on a resume? Manager.
Oh my gosh.
Because people put the word manger, M-A-N-G-E-R, and that's a word. So your spell checker does not catch it. So manger's a word. Right? Where did I go? Nothing turns off an employer any faster. They are looking for good people to work in their companies. Don't make the mistake of applying for a job in Austin, Texas, while stating in your cover letter that you are looking forward to returning to your home state of Louisiana, period. If you feel that you cannot do a good job of checking over these things, ask a good friend to help you, period. It is worth a few extra minutes of proofreading to make sure everything is correct, period.
Shouldn't the word state be capital S?
What was it?
The word state, home state of Louisiana.
No, not a capital S there. When we're talking about the state, when we're talking about a case, then we would capitalize the S, but not when we're saying the state of Texas. If we said the great state of Texas, then I might have capitalized the S. But state of Louisiana, no, especially since it's Louisiana. But if it's Texas, it might be different. If you feel that you cannot do a good job of checking over these things, ask a good friend. And then the last paragraph, the little things that you do at the start of your job search should pay off huge in the end, period. It is better to go out on your search with the knowledge that you have a good resume and cover letter, and that you are the person who can do the job. Good luck to you in your search. And look at the punctuation on that one. I highlighted that one. Did anybody get that far on the test, and did you put an exclamation mark there? I probably would have just put a period. All right, let's look at the Q&A. Did you all take the Q&A? You still have to take yours? Okay.
At 60.
And I don't know where he started. Sometimes he practices from the beginning and then gives you a test near the end. And on a Q&A, sometimes it's always those proper names that are at the very beginning. So he
Yeah.
might have tested you at the end and
We
just
practiced at
practiced.
the beginning, and I think we tested close to the end.
Oh, this is the one I read with you, isn't it?
With the seat
Yes.
belt and
The paramedic. Okay, what is your name? My name is Ray Porter. One of the tests that I'm grading, I think it's the Q, or maybe it's the A. The A is moving over here and then starting the printout. I'm not sure what's wrong with what they're doing. Did all of yours line up on your Q&As? I just asked the person to try to check on that. And on some of the Q&As in Eclipse, it's changing the size of the font between the Q&A. Are you all having any trouble with that? I asked David about that one, and he says his does it too. And he said, I just leave it, I don't change it.
Mine doesn't line up like that, does it? Puts it all the way at the end when it goes to a new line. I'm not sure why it doesn't indent.
Like this,
Yeah, it goes all the way to the left with it. Like even
oh, it
before
goes
the
over
A
here.
thing.
And see, that's probably a setting. You might ask Zarati about that in your class.
Yeah.
But I asked him about the font, and he said his does it too, and he just leaves it. He doesn't go back and change it. Sometimes the print is very small, and sometimes it's really large, and it's obvious that it's a different size. What is your occupation, Mr. Porter? I am a paramedic, period. Anybody put a semicolon there? I'm a paramedic. I work for the county ambulance service. How long have you been employed in that capacity? For about 3.5 years. Were you on duty as a paramedic on April 27? Yes, I was. Where were you about 8:30 that evening? Everybody's time came up okay? Yes? Okay. At that time, comma, okay. We were dispatched to an ambulance accident south of the city. When you arrived at the scene of the accident, and you can see we've got all of the briefs underlined in there, comma, what did you do? I immediately took charge of an orange-colored vehicle. It's hyphenated here. Did you all hyphenate orange-colored?
I wouldn't.
You would have? It was in a travel lane, and it had one male occupant in the seat. Do you need the comma there? It was in a travel lane, and it had one male occupant in the seat.
I think it's short enough we can leave out the comma.
I think you could too. Again, this is the hardest part of grading these tests, is the punctuation. If you heard as someone was answering that question, what was it? Okay, it was the answer. It was in a travel lane, and it had one male occupant in the seat. Was that person thinking about, I mean, when we read it, we're just reading, we're not thinking. The person that was actually answering that question could have been thinking, okay, where was it? How many people were in there? If they hadn't rehearsed what they were going to say, they might really be thinking. You might hear a pause there. Question, what kind of a vehicle was that? It was a Plymouth. I verified that later that evening. Period.
Semicolon.
Semicolon. I would have put a semicolon there. Which lane was this automobile in? Did she say automobile or car? You know, I like the accident Q&A because there's a lot of briefs, and we've heard people say, or people have said to us, you know, it's never an accident when you take the state test. Well, the last state test was an accident.
Never say never.
Yeah, so, you know, we still need to practice those. Those are probably the easiest ones to do because of all the briefs. It was going the wrong way in the northbound lane. Northbound, one word. When you looked into this vehicle, what did you see? Comma separating, what did you see? I saw one male occupant in the vehicle. The car had separate front seats with a console between them. He was lying between the seats, facing towards the rear, with his legs trapped underneath the steering wheel. What else did you observe about that person? He was unconscious, period. His breathing was very shallow, and his pulse rate was weak. I considered him to be in critical condition. Was he bleeding? Yes, comma, he was. He had 2 cuts on his face. Were you able to obtain his identity? Not at that time, comma, but I did find out who he was when we got to the hospital. What identity were you given at that time? Robert Smith. Is the individual that you found in that automobile here in the courtroom today? Yes, he is. Any questions so far on the punctuation, how it was on the written part of the test? No comments? Okay, let's keep going then. Where is he sitting? He is sitting next to his attorney at the counsel table. All right. After you found him in the vehicle, what did you do? All right, period. I applied a cervical collar to his neck, and I gave him oxygen. Necessary to have the comma there?
I guess it depends on how it's there.
It's not, I wouldn't take off if you didn't have the comma there. There were several deputies there to help me. What did you do about his lower extremities? They were at such an angle that I suspected they were fractured. I applied splints to both legs. Period or semicolon? Either one would be correct, wouldn't it? Was it necessary to use some sort of a tool to get his legs out from underneath the steering wheel? No. The way his legs were, yes, you left that word out, under the wheel, comma, I could splint them and remove him from the vehicle. What happened next? The deputies and I then slid him out of the vehicle. We put him on a stretcher and then lifted him into the ambulance. What was the next thing you did? We started an IV and monitored his condition. I just highlighted the IV. Hopefully you wrote it that way. He seemed to stabilize after we gave him the IV. At that time, we drove him to the hospital. Punctuation needed there?
Again, depending.
Depends on whether you heard a pause there. Okay, at that time, we drove him to the hospital. In addition to those injuries, comma, did you notice anything else about him? I could smell a strong odor of alcohol coming from his breath, period. I also could smell an odor coming from inside the vehicle, period. It seemed to be beer. I could smell beer. Period here.
Maybe a semicolon.
Semicolon would have worked. Depends on how you heard it. Remember, you're the person that's punctuating according to what you hear. Pardon me? Beer. It appeared to be beer. Would you have punctuated that any differently?
Semicolon.
Maybe dash or something.
A dash, possibly. Depends on how the person said it.
But I
It
had-
sounds like they're getting a little frustrated in their answering. Beer. It appeared to be beer. What did you hear there? Did you hear a dash, a long pause?
I just have the period there
Did you?
from my transcript.
But I think either one would work. Let me back up a moment. When you first approached this vehicle, were any people standing around it? Let me back up a moment. What would you have put there? Just the period?
That's what I have.